Hello everyone! I am very glad to welcome Tupac here with us, Tupac Martir, the creative director and multimedia artist known for pushing the limits to conceptualize and execute iconic events in the fashion space, art space, music industry. He's described by Vogue as the visual artist and director behind some of the most important events in the world, which is absolutely true. I mean, he has been doing production design, visuals, lighting direction for the likes of Elton John, Beyonce, Danny Boyle, Coachella Music Arts Festival, Serpentine Gallery. And he's the founder and the creative director of the multidisciplinary Satore Studio, based in London. And I think that Tupac has been staying in London for the last couple of months, which normally we are crossing each other, I don't know, between two planes. This time we are here digitally. And yes, I think Tupac is going to speak about what he's been working on in the last times. We will certainly evoke Cosmos Within Us, the performative reality piece that has debuted at the Venice Film Festival and won the Spirit of Raindance Award and a couple of further awards actually. But yeah, Tupac, we will look together on how technology shall be applied to the service of the story. And I remember our discussion a couple of months ago where you were saying technology is actually like a character in the story. I found this very interesting and super inspiring. And let us start this talk and tell us everything like how to give a voice to technology in this, also in the story, and integrate also the human at the center of the story. How does that work with all these characters?
Sure. For example, what do you call your computer? When you talk to your computer, how do you talk to it? How do you talk to it? How do you have a conversation with your computer all the time? You know, in terms of you name it, you come on, you know, oh, you can do it. You know, if it's struggling on something, you always try, you know, you already look at your machine as if it's a human being, don't you? You look at your phone and you say, oh, this thing, you know, the way that you relate to so many of the things that are around you as a person already is you know, is ridiculous. And so that comes because you have a familiarity with it. It comes because it's something that you have all the time and you're used to using it. And because of that, you imagine the reactions that it's doing to you, correct?
Absolutely.
Me is exactly the same. It's you know, I had my first computer when I was 6 years old. I started coding when I was 6 years old. You know, for me, technology is something that I grew up with. It's not, you know, it's not something that is alien to me. It's something that from the moment I can remember, I was looking at my monochrome green screen and trying to, you know, understand what I could do with code and with words meant. And, you know, granted that now I look at some of that code and I go, my God, it was horrible. But, you know, because it is so embedded in the way that I think, it is a part of who I am. It's an extension of it. They all, you know, all my machines here have names. And all of them are all, you know, and you always talk to them. And, you know, it's, for me, that's why every single element that we do, just like we do it with paint or with light, with a character, with an actor, with a dancer, you know, for me, the technology has exactly the same value as all those people, because they allow you to feel, they allow you to create, they allow you to understand something. Most of the times they're quite hidden, you know, there's not a conscious thing, there's a subconscious thing, but they're around and they're around you all the time.
Absolutely. So I have to think like about technology and the humanity of my computer. I think I'm seeing all the people writing the name they give to their computer in the chat. And I'm like, damn, I never thought of that before. But what happens?
It's one of the most beautiful things in the world, that conversation that you have. You know, think about your phone. Think how close you are to your phone, and when it's not around you, you do have a mini panic attack. You know,
absolutely.
And it's not just the connectivity, because you know you have your laptop to do whatever you need, or it's that relationship that you have with it. And And when you start taking that into consideration, when you start creating, you know that that computer has a graphics card that would only allow you to do a certain amount of things. Or you use an engine and you know the limitations of that engine, or you use a software and you know the limitations of the software, or the opportunities that that software gives you. And so therefore, by taking that as a decision, you are putting a character, because you know that that graphics card can only do RTX, or it can only ray trace, or actually it can't ray trace, it can only bake lighting. And that's a look. That's something that you put it in there, and you're conscious about you putting those things in there. And so, when you start breaking that down, slowly you realize that a lot of the decisions that you make in your process means that you're actually giving an extra look. It's not your main character, although it might be sometimes, but most of the times it's just an extra in the piece. It's the guys that are sitting behind the lead actress having a coffee. They give you a context. They give you an element that allows the story to survive and to know what is happening. So that's why I always say it's not a conscious thing, it's a subconscious thing. It's a way that you can put little things on your audience that they are not aware of, but their subconscious is. And their subconscious is actually making that piece behind it. A lot of the times, I expect certain reactions from the audience when they come to see our pieces. But I know most of the times I'm going to get emails and I'm going to get messages days after. Because it's not until their brains have completely understood a lot of the stuff that we're doing that then, like, it's like playing Mario Brothers and you get those coins and you go, oh, gotcha. That's when it happens. And, and it's always a lovely thing to have those delayed moments, because it means that it's been lingering in your head, even if you didn't want to. There's a moment in there that just lives. And then eventually you realize the message that we were trying to create. And then you come back to me and you express me that feeling. And that feeling, I always say, is not right or wrong. It's yours. When I started painting, my first collection was named A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Every single painting had a letter. And then when you walked in, they gave you a little like survey and said A, B, C, D, E, F, and they had all the letters as many pieces. Mm-hmm. And I asked people to name them, because I wasn't going to give them a name. It was up to the audience to give the personal name that the painting needed to have. And by putting a name to that painting, by putting a name to that piece of art, it became theirs. It stopped being mine. And this is what we do with technology. We try to create things that are yours. They're yours, and they interconnect you with other human beings because they have a similar experience, a moment with it. And by finding a common place to talk about something, then you find something beautiful between both of you.
Absolutely. I wanted to say, like, you were talking about consciousness, and that some things are unconscious, and it makes me think of the time which is coming up where maybe computer and technology will have a sort of conscious thanks to AI or elaborated AI, but that will be probably another discussion. So I don't want to push it so much, but it also reminds me what you are talking about, evoking the closeness, the intimacy we actually have with technology. And technology be also part of our lives, if not of ourselves. It makes me think also of a quote of Amber Case, also from our speakers, saying like, we are all cyborgs now. I mean, it's just a question of time where the functionalities we still have in our hands, only in our hands with our iPhones, will be integrated in, I don't know, maybe a chip or whatever that is, even closer to our body. I mean, think of the watch, think that everything is getting a little bit more immersive. So saying that you are actually integrating technology in the story, maybe as a character, or also integrating more humanity to tech, makes it also clear that humanity and technology are really part of the story as such, so to speak. I remember that we started the conversation a while ago where you were giving me the example of House of Cards, where the camera that we see of outside as a piece of technology is suddenly also part of the story and the perspective of the story, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I said, it's a great way of understanding it, because obviously cameras have their own, if you're going digital, you're going film, you're already giving it a feeling to it. But then, House of Cards is great because it was just on that brink where Netflix wasn't just great yet, and all the things that they're doing, and people were and the way that people used to watch Netflix, it's only if you think about it on the last 4 or 5 years that people started watching it on their TV screens, you know, and you knew that because on that first shot, when Frank comes down and goes to the dog and, you know, grabs it and looks up, a typical cinematic shot would have been quite away so that gaze would have taken the entire movie theater, you know, but actually it was quite a close-up. And if that's such a close-up, then the people at the bottom and the people at the top actually don't get the eyes straight in front of you. You knew that they weren't thinking about televisions, because even in television, the shot is still, you know, I would say 5 meters away, you know, and so therefore the gaze might go straight to one person, but the rest of them are not getting it. But they knew that almost everybody at that time was watching on their laptops, on their iPads, or on their phones, which means they had this proximity, impossibly in bed, which meant they had this kind of 1 meter separation, tops 50 centimeters. So when Frank finally looks at you, it looks straight at you. That, you know, that is just like in there, and they knew it, and they took advantage of that. Obviously, Phoebe has done amazing work with it, and just the way that that she's breaking that fourth wall and all that, but she knows that we're watching it on television. She knows for a fact people are gathering around the telly to watch that show, rather than being directly on their phones. And, like, you know, there's a bigger audience because she was making that show for BBC. So she knew that the audience was going to be more likely on a television than, and you can see that just by the way that the shot is blocked, you know, and that's using technology to tell the story.
Absolutely. The different ways we have to watch or experience rather a story. Right now we have Venice in full swing coming up for the next 10 days, actually. We have Venice VR on tour. We can experience it in different places. Also here in Berlin. I don't know how it is. In London too, right?
No, London doesn't have one.
Oh, okay. I should have said that. Okay. Well, anyway, we have some people. Alicia, are they in Amsterdam too? I think they are in Amsterdam too, right?
Amsterdam, and then there's Moscow, and there's about 14 places that are showing it. It's going to be really nice. I mean, I have it here, so I'm going to be able to watch it. But that's the difference.
Yes. Yeah. But also, what I wanted to say actually with VR is more saying like, okay, so also the way we experience an immersive experience with glasses, or having also like with augmented reality or phones in a different function, also to watch things, to watch a story, to experience a story, or to be in the story or observe it.
But even then, you can look at it and say, you know, one thing that I'm really sad about what's happening right now is there can't be any experiences that are LBE, you know, location-based, which had become such an important element of the immersive world, has all of a sudden been completely annihilated because of all our COVID rules, you know, and that is actually quite a sad thing, because, you know, pieces like ours, pieces like Cosmos, the pieces that we create in this studio are not meant to be a sixth of, you know, they're not meant to just live on their own, because I don't want them to live on their own. I need them to be that physical, and I need them to have the element of a human driving every single decision that is happening on the piece. And, you know, I'm very excited about some of the pieces that are there, because I really want to see how they are. I know that there were pieces that were meant to be LBE, and now they've gone completely sixth of, and I want to see how they resolve that problem, because, you know, what we have a piece that we had to stop and have put on pause for the next 4 or 5 months until next year, because we need to be on site. We need to be next to you. We want you to feel our humanity when you are there. You need to have that element of the machine and feeling the heat of the machine in order for it, technically, literally, you need the heat of the machine to be able to feel what we want you to do, you know, because it's such an embedded part of the show.
The heat of the machine, talking about putting more humanity in tech. Wow. Okay. This is definitely something which is going to stay from this talk for sure. I love it. The heat of the machine. Fantastic. Tell us, I mean, I know that you are working on a couple of projects that you won't be able to talk about, unfortunately, but tell us maybe a couple of things about Cosmos Within Us that you were just evoking right now, because not everybody has been seeing Cosmos Within Us here.
Sure. Let me just open my slides. There we go. Can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. There's the logos. That's us. Yeah, so Cosmos opened almost a year to the date in Venice. It was really funny because so today I was receiving pictures of people about their bracelets, which was really funny because a lot of people are still carrying their bracelets, which I find amazing. But Cosmos comes with this idea of when we started looking at it, and this was early 2017. We were trying to find a way of creating a piece that was, I don't want to say more cinematic, but more performative. That year we went to Venice and we saw Alice and we saw Draw Me Close. And it was lovely to see, the use and the technique of the paper. At the end of the day, in the studio, everything that I do is always drawn first before it actually makes it to a machine, to a computer. And so we were trying to find a way in which we could bring some of these drawings and some of this hand sketches and some of these different types of techniques into a single environment, and how can those environments work with each other. And we were looking at how can we implement all this 16:9 and 4:3 video that exists, and what is possible to do with it, and how can we fragment it so that it can actually create something completely different. We also were looking at, can we do something that is actually more elaborate and create a sort of a scenography within the piece that allows us to block scenes from one space to the other or happening at the same time, so that we can create a story that is unfolding naturally in 4 places at the same time. We were trying to understand what we could do with light, what we could do with projection, what we could do with our characters, how silly could we get with them, how many times could we replicate them. And so we came up with this thing that we call performative art, because it's a performance that happens in different realities. We did a little proof of concept at VR Days in 2016, in which we had 2 live actors, 2 musicians, a dancer, and what you see there is us using Notch at the time as our weapon of choice. Eventually, because of some of the decisions that we wanted to make and some of the aesthetics that we wanted to create, we actually walked away from Notch and went straight into Unreal. But this, what you see right there, is the original Dome of Memories that we created. And what was really interesting about the proof of concept is that in a matter of, I would say, 6 hours, we went from having a piece of paper with a bit of an idea of the script to people asking us by the end of it, what happens next in the story? And I was going, well, we have no clue. We were writing it as we were seeing you, and we were seeing other people go through it. And eventually it brought out to be this, in which there's 2 performers that are always doing something for you. Those are what we call our shadow men. They are characters that have actually been brought in from our first show, Nierka, across various years. There's nothing funnier than seeing somebody stick their hand out because they see a juice box and grabbing that juice box. We know for a fact that the fact that you can see that juice box and then grab it and then grab the cookie actually is generating new connections in your brain, because your brain has never had that experience. And so all of a sudden, the combination of all these elements is something that neurologically you have never experienced. And therefore you're creating new things with us at that moment, which is fantastic. All that show, when we took it to Venice, where we had 4 people in the audience and 1 person as an interactor, eventually grew up to being this, where, when we were in New York, we were performing to 150 people, and we had a 5-piece orchestra, and the narrator has always been, is a voiceover that is live, and the musicians are live, and we have a sound engineer, and all our visuals are done in real time. And in this case, we had to add extra cameras so that people could see angles that they couldn't see from other places, because there was actually a space between them and the interactor. Our sound design is done not just in real time because of the way that we write the music, but also we're panning the sound across an 11.2 surround sound system across the entire, the entire venue. But then, as you can see, our interactor is wearing a pair of headphones, but then every single person in the audience is also having that. And so all of a sudden it changes dramatically from having some sound that is coming out of a PA in a stereo system coming this way, then to have it surrounded by you and then having elements that are coming straight into your ears. The connection that happens at that moment between what you're seeing and what you're listening And the fact that the voiceover is coming directly to your ears creates a connection that you're not used to having. And the only time that you kind of had it was when you were a child and you were told stories about your father and your mother, you know? So it actually throws you back to being that child, which is what we were trying to do. You know, we're playing with all sorts of sizes and where you are. This is obviously the piece now in New York, and you can see our cameras there showing you elements. You can see our interactor being in the middle of the forest, and the fact that you have the smell of fresh cut grass and you having the breeze, it creates an immersion that goes beyond just seeing something, but you're really believing that you're there. You can see me there, obviously conducting the piece, because the piece is conducted live. The piece is conducted to the movement of our interactor. The movement and the decisions of the interactor relate completely and directly to me and how I trigger things, when I make things happen, when I make them stop, when I elongate them, when I need to snap out of them. All those little things are taken into consideration and are decisions that are being made by the interactor. They're not made by me. So technically the story is linear, but in reality it's linear with a lot of bizarre curves in order to get you where you are. You know, we were looking at how do we integrate all this technology? How do we make the grandmother? How do we make Aiken, you know? And so bringing in everything and putting, you know, all the facial marks on them and trying to get all their expressions and, you know, and shooting them and getting the mocap and then bringing all that into the scene so that it becomes like a moment that really, really exists in your memory. You know, the fact that we shot this 360 film or 180 film at that point with our set and how surreal could I get with the characters, you know? How much could I do with all these things that are happening around you? You know, it's a joke that there's two shadow men within our play that are actually setting up everything for the next scene that is happening within what you're seeing. Having a bit of a joke that actually in the outside world, there's two shadow men that are also doing exactly the same thing for you. You know, how surreal can I get with my characters and make them, you know, realize that they're all my family. And there's a way that I remember a lot of parts of my family. You know, using the green screen to then give you another element that exists behind it. And it was all this time trying to figure out these little bits and pieces that as a whole, you know, they create the piece on their own. They're quite limited, but it's when you put them all together that they actually become this important thing. The reason that the voiceover is always live is because I have an entire conversation with him. The voiceover never sees a screen. He has no idea what's going on the other side of his microphone. All he can see is me and his script. And I'm guiding him based on the movement of the interactor. And I can guide his voice and I can give him cadence and I can give him bravado and I can soften the voice. And I'm doing all these things to give the interactor a once in a lifetime experience. It's theirs, it's unique. It's never gonna be repeated in the same way. You know,
like in real life.
Like in real life. And you know, the amount of techniques that we had to create in order to bring stuff to happen. There's a flower in the middle of the show and getting to get that flower to the level that I wanted it to do, in the way that I wanted it to be, had to go through all these different variations, you know, and poor Liam struggled to get us there, but eventually he made the flower that I wanted. This is a staya at the Eye Film Museum in Amsterdam. For the first time watching Cosmos, and you know, it was beautiful to go from bring 4 people in Venice, 10 people at Rain Dance, and all of a sudden we come to Amsterdam and we're doing it for 115 people, and it was the first time that we put it in a big old screen for the audience to watch, because we didn't know how they were going to react to that, and the things that we needed to add, because all of a sudden we went from having it in screens to putting it into a film screen, and the decisions that we had to make. You know, all these little things, you know, that's how the scene was made. All these little things come into consideration when you're putting the piece together, and that's why, you know, there's 15 scenes in Cosmos. But every single scene by itself is an entire piece of art because it's so different from the next one. No scene actually shares at any given point the same techniques than another. Even when they're almost the same, you know that the techniques are completely different. And that's what made Cosmos very, very interesting, because we were trying to actually push something that was trying to use all these technologies when they were absolutely hidden from the human eye.
Mm-hmm. When we are, I mean, this is very impressive. Like when I'm thinking about the numbers of different tech categories that you are using, it maybe
Everything.
that's what you said. You start with drawing, right? And you already have your pencil. Let's take this as a technology, right? And then we elaborate to the most elaborated virtual gaming tech you're using. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, sound is also something that you are using.
You know, but that was the beauty about doing Cosmos. It was this, you know, in the same way that Nietzsche evolved in that way, is at any given moment, a piece of technology or a piece of music or an instrument, it's given their moment in the sun to shine, and everybody supports that moment. And then you take that element, and that element goes back, and somebody else comes and shines. And it's always about maintaining that balance, so that you never have five things that are fighting for each other. It's always one with whether you call like another character that is supporting that main character at that moment, and then they go away, you know. And it's about maintaining that balance throughout 38 minutes, 40 minutes that the piece is, you know, and how you evoke and scratch the memories that a human has, and their emotions and things that are theirs in their vault, and you just kind of plug in and take it out and go, hi, remember this? Yeah, you know, it was that, you know, we did, I think by the time the script that made it to Venice was version 28. You know, we rewrote that piece over and over again, and actually probably a month and a half before Venice, we destroyed the entire thing and we rewrote the entire piece again, you know, because we had seen from doing our tests that certain things were working, certain things weren't. And it wasn't like, oh, we can fix it. No, it was like, okay, grab everything that we have. We know what our story is in big blocks. Now let's repopulate it in terms of the words together, and let's rewrite it. And we literally rewrote it a month and a half before Venice, which is insane, I know, and don't ever tell us.
I didn't know that actually. And I'm like, how did you do that? This is crazy. Are you using AI?
No, we're just using human emotion. I mean, there's
human intelligence.
There's a beautiful thing that at the end of Cosmos, there's a monologue that comes in, and I remember sitting with Ben, trying to get the correct words to go into that monologue, and everything he was writing was kind of there, but it was not there, you know. And when you can read something, you go, it's not the right. And then having a beer with him, I said, well, why don't you write it to somebody that you know you're never going to see again, and use that as your inspiration. And he came up with this beautiful monologue that comes at the end, that I feel bad for our voiceover actors, because they're crying, you know, and there's not acting. Literally, they're crying because they're seeing their own human, how finite you are as a human being, and how it is that you will cease to exist. And what is it that you're leaving behind? And what is it that actually relates to other people when you're left? You know, and all this little thing, and that for them is, you know, it's such a powerful message.
Mm-hmm. I was actually asking as a joke, if you were using artificial intelligence right now to accelerate the processes to be finished for Venice. I would not actually think you would have done that, but generally speaking, are you also coding, programming, AI?
I mean, we actually have some pieces of AI in Cosmos, but people don't realize it.
I hope so, or maybe no. It depends. It can be also a character in the story, right? But did you use AI as a way to accelerate or optimize processes, or are they really in the creative or production part of the stories? How is that?
So one of the reasons we use AI is to, there's a moment where the dragon comes out, and we're using AI so that no matter what the movement of the dragon is, and no matter where you are, the dragon can actually find you and throw fire at you. And then after that, there's some wolves coming at you with riders, and they have to find you. So no matter where you are in the space, they have to come and run at you directly. So
you cannot escape the AI dragon.
But we have an animation of them, but then the AI tells them how to deviate to get to that moment.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that in the very near future you will use even more AI technology?
Potentially, but it only has to deal with elements that need to be accentuated or need to be accelerated. More on that side rather than on the creative side. So it's more a tool to make sure that things know where they need to be and how they need to react at that moment, rather than, make a bunch of trees in AI and, it will figure itself out. No, I mean, we still have to paint every single bloody tree.
So it is more to optimize intelligence than to have a creative role in your stories, right? So the stories you are creating are really coming from a human brain.
Yeah. Everything that we write comes from a human element. And, I have a piece that I've been working, it's 2020 now. I've been working on the piece for 17 years. And technology has not arrived to where I need it to be in order to present that piece. I have another piece that I've been working since 2003. Technology is still not there. I have another piece from 2013 that is kind of getting there in just what technology can do. So now I can bring it in. Now I'm starting to look at it. It's, I'm waiting. A lot of times I'm waiting for the right technology to finally come across. When we did Nyaka, there's this idea of the dancing screens, and I knew I could do it with automation. I knew I could put motors and I can make them go up and down. I can put them on motors and make them go left and right. But even when you went to the theater, there's always, and everyone's seen this, when there's a projection that goes from left to right, and you have the person moving the screen either getting too ahead or too far back, and it never matches. No matter how much they tried, no one can ever match them. And in 2006, I wrote a concept about dancing screens, and the technology just wasn't there. And then in 2011, January 2011, I was at this symposium in Cologne, and I explained what I wanted to do, and everyone thought that I was crazy, that there was no chance that the technology was going to be there, that to bridge the gap between how far automation tracking could get to and where media servers were at was not possible, and that gap was huge.
Is that why you actually created Satore Tech, to be able actually to produce the tech you were missing?
No, tech only came up 3 years ago. This was still studio. This is just me as technology has always been part of me. So I just thought about what is it that it has to do. And I remember being deep in it and finally finding a couple of people that believed in what I was trying to do. And then in September of 2011, I had to get 2 people very drunk and got them to sign a napkin agreeing that they were going to do all that R&D for me. And I even remember being in November in rehearsals and people telling me, Disney and Universal are spending millions to do what you want to do and they can't get it. What makes you think you can? And I said, because I am smarter. And lo and behold, January 15, 2012, on the West End, 4 screens are moving together and an image is tied to them. And all of a sudden the dancers don't have to worry about, did I make it to my mark or not? Did I make it too fast? Did I make it too slow? Doesn't matter. Just move with it, turn around with it, screw it, do all these things. What we're thinking about is going to happen. And, but it took me 6 years to get there. And in this case, there's this piece that lo and behold, there's been 17 years and technology is starting to scratch it, but it's not there yet. And I don't want to waste it on the wrong technology, because the wrong technology will give you the wrong story. So it has to be the correct tech.
Mm-hmm. Well, I see that you are trying to keep the balance between, okay, what is the correct tech depends also on the projects, on the stories and etc. So you are very adaptive in the way you create your stories and which tech you use, as you were telling in the example of Cosmos Within Us, with a set of different scenes with different tech technologies, each of them, so to speak. So this is showing also that there is not one tech for everything, that's for sure. And it's just because we talk about immersive media, and I know that we have some technologists in the room here who know about that we have to be super adaptive, and this is still moving on. I wanted to say that, please, we could maybe now open up to the audience for questions, because the time is getting like crazy fast with Tupac as always. So do we have some questions in the chat? I see that Melissa has been asking the participants already. Is there any technology you are waiting on? I mean, maybe I can ask you also the question, Tupac, like, is there a specific technology you are waiting on when you're saying, like, oh, I don't want to have to do that myself, but I wish I had that technology now?
I mean, yes.
Okay, go on.
But, you know, it has to deal more with the basis of the tech is kind of there. The interesting bit is how the algorithms need to be written in order to make sense of what I'm trying to do. And I know it sounds really convoluted, but it has to do more with how those physical how those physical elements and how my digital elements can live together in one single space at the same time and recognize each other in the way that I want them to do, which is kind of starting to get there, but it's not there yet. And I know for a fact that once we get there, it's going to be a completely different shift on the way that we're looking at something. You know, I'm really excited about the new NVIDIA 3080, you know, to see what I can render with it. Like there's a lot of things that are coming to market that I'm excited, mainly because of how much it can accelerate things, how much it actually gets rid of. I mean, everyone remembers editing on AutoPanel, right? Stitching on AutoPanel was just hell. And anyone that had to do it knows that it was like, you just didn't want to, you know? It was worse than perjury, I think it was. You know, it was just like, you know, you got sent to the purgatory and had to do AutoPanel. That's what the purgatory looks to me. And then eventually all these people started coming up with easier stitching softwares to the point that you just don't even care about it. You're just going to go, boom, there you go, stitches together, great. You know, it's so much easier, you know. And that's the kind of thing where you go, I don't, it's a mundane thing that you don't want to spend your time in. Like there's better things for you to do than worrying about how the stitch is going to come together.
Yes, absolutely. I think that even Melissa has a question herself. Melissa, would you like to ask Tupac directly?
Sure thing. Hey, yeah, I wanted to know when you went wow the last time when you came across something new, technological, or I don't know, design, art. What was the last thing that really surprised you in a positive sense that you didn't make?
Yesterday.
Yesterday? What was it?
Yesterday, we someone came to the studio to we've been experimenting with something. We haven't been able to get it right, and then yesterday they came to the studio to show us how they fixed it, and I was just like, wow.
But you can't tell us more, right? It's probably something secret still.
Nothing to show, you know.
So okay, this doesn't work as an answer. This doesn't work. But I have somebody in the audience wanting to share something with you. Tank, would you like to maybe say to Tupac what it is about, this Spatial Toolbox? Where are you? I don't see you. Hold on.
Yes, okay, so Tank has no mic at the moment, but we just have a tool that Tank posted in the chat, and it's too bad that Tank doesn't have his mic, because we had a discussion before together with Alicia about animistic versus mechanical views of technology, and Tank was saying that we all would be in a better space if we left the mechanical view behind and went into the animistic view that I was mentioning in one of the articles. So I think it's a very interesting comment. So I'm sorry that Tank cannot voice
talk
it.
with you directly. This is too bad, damn. But Tupac, you have access to the chat also, and you need to check that link. You will know probably at once what it's all about. I'm not a techie myself, so probably I won't even see the tech they're talking about.
But maybe coming back to the animistic view, maybe Alicia, it's something that you would like to comment about, because you also had some strong reaction to this. So would you like to share a thought about this with us, Alicia?
Alicia, you have a mic and a camera. I know that.
No.
No, where are they all today?
I think Kathleen had something to say, right? Were you raising your hand? Do you want to talk, Kathleen?
Okay, Catherine, let's take it all. I don't know what they are doing without their cameras and without their mics here.
I was just typing, and then I was, whatever, come on, it's easier if I ask you directly. Hi, Tupac, nice to see you. You might remember when the last time was in February in this planetarium.
Yes.
But that was a really philosophical take on the whole experience. So I have two questions. One is related to the technology that might be impressive. For me, it's digital humans or volumetric video. I would like to know what you think about that.
Yeah, I've been making some humans behind me.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that the top secret thing that was figured out yesterday?
Probably. I mean, we are all into digital humans here, so this is really interesting. This is becoming really interesting.
I do like digital humans. I think that there's it's the bit that I'm really interesting about, and we're happy that the BBC came to see us when we were in Didcot to show them where we're seeing the future of fashion and how we can see virtual beings and digital humans being something very important for that, but then how they are becoming very important in the way that we are creating a couple of new pieces that have them embedded very, very heavily. So that's what we're doing. A lot of testing behind me. Yeah. I feel like Gargamel though. I feel like Gargamel in the Smurfs when I'm making a human. It's like, you know.
I mean, with such a title, like integrating humanity to tech and the other way around, I think that digital humans are obviously an excellent case study to go on with, right?
Yeah, especially because I think like there is this Uncanny Valley effect that we still have to work on, and I didn't see yet any results from any research institution where they figured out how to deal with that, how to deal with that.
The Uncanny Valley is always the worst bit of it, and you know we worked really hard in Cosmos to try to get rid of the Uncanny Valley from both Aiken and the grandmother. I'm not sure we solved it at that point. We got to a point where we just couldn't do any more because we were limited. But I know that there's a lot of work that has been done by a few companies. We're talking to most of them about what is happening with virtual humans, and you know, I think there is a future for them.
Yes, there is one in Berlin, right?
Yeah, that is volumetric video.
No. That's not what I meant. I meant also for digital humans. We have a good company here in Berlin too. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, when you see what ILM did with the Irishman, and understanding that, there's another paper that I read from Google the other day about it, and then there's a paper that I read, a white paper that I read the other day from a Chinese company, Chinese student, two of them, PhD, that is taking an extra advance on it. So there's, you know, I have quite a few white papers that I still need to go through, but yeah, there's a lot of them going through my reading box at the moment.
I think we will have to do another talk like in a couple of months again to check and have updates on the developments, right?
It won't be me, it'll be my digital human.
Oh my God, this is great. You know, we tested actually some digital human because there is this platform where you have the opportunity to actually customize your digital human, and this is fantastic. We loved it. We put the AI, let's call it that way, the digital human, with English with a French accent, and it worked fantastically. It was really funny. Anyways, yeah, we will definitely do that. Sorry, what was the next question?
I had a second question, which is much easier to answer. So I misunderstood, but you said, so last year it was playing in Venice, and I know that there is a version for, or maybe I also misunderstood that there is a version for one person. So right now, Venice is happening in a couple of cities, like as in Berlin, as AC said, but it's not in the program there. Can you tell us if there is a one-person version, what that is about?
I can't.
Okay, this is what I'm saying. We cannot talk about everything today, as it seems, so we will have to do a follow-up of this one, and we will call it definitely woman machine, because we didn't have the woo in the man machine interaction this time. We didn't want to put so much gender pressure here because we don't care so much about it, but still we will definitely have a follow-up on that one.
Meanwhile, I see Tank is back with the headphones on.
Okay, let's go. This is great.
Hi, Tank.
Hello. I just had to switch computers because I was on my PC. It's kind of isolated from humanity, so I can focus on the machine part of things. So I switched to my laptop. Yeah, the link I posted, I understood from what you were saying, Tupac, that you're looking for a way to integrate space and digital objects together, or
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of togetherness. I always find it hard when I'm trying not to say something or saying too much about what I'm trying to do. But it's the best way I can put it is we're working on a way that digital and reality actually merge together in a completely non headset wearing type of way.
Fabulous. So maybe this is something interesting. So the link I sent you, just for a bit of context, I'm a very technically minded person. I love gadgets and new technology, and that's like my focus, but I'm always very, like, art is in my heart. So I'm always trying to find a way to combine these two things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm often in touch with developers and hardware people. And very recently, there was a talk regarding augmented reality and the future of augmented reality. And there was a lot of AI and digital beings and the whole thing. But how do you integrate the real world to make it seamless with the digital world? And one of the people who were in the talk, he works for PwC, mm-hmm. And PTC, sorry. And they are making the Vuforia. It's a pretty old AR imaging thing that lets you like scan an image and then see a digital item on top of the image. But now they're working on the Spatial Toolbox. And the interesting thing about it is that you can use all kinds of, it sets up like a virtual networks, a server, and you can connect different, Arduinos, microcontrollers, Raspberries, and integrate it to an AR application.
Interesting.
So might be something interesting. I don't want to get into too many technical details.
I think that, yeah, the tech details you can exchange after that. I just want to give the opportunity thank you very much, Tang, for your question. This is great. I just want to give the opportunity to anyone who is there also to ask Tupac directly. Otherwise, we can also say we can stop the recording now and get a little bit more, so that we are super.